everyone. It is the Barbara Christensen VlogCast, and I'm so excited to be here today. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about gut health, which I've been talking a lot about online over the last month, because the more I learn about our gut, the more I'm finding that everything in our health is really related to our gut. If our guts aren't healthy, then we aren't healthy. And it's interesting because there's really no focus when you go into a doctor's office on your gut health. I mean, when you walk into your doctor's office and they have on their little questionnaire, they ask you about your family history and things. It does say, do you have stomach issues? But that's about where it stops. They don't say, oh, hey, by the way, do you take a probiotic? Have you had food allergies that may be related to digestive issues? Are you taking a supplement for leaky gut? Are you thinking about what you're eating and how it's affecting the bacteria in your digestive tract? They don't go into any of that. It's like they just kind of gloss over, well, here, take this antacid. Oh, here, let's take this medication. I was talking to a gal yesterday that has fibromyalgia, and she says, I really need to get in and have an appointment with you and really talk about some of the, natural decisions that I want to make and what your opinion is on it, because all they want to push is medication, and I don't want just medication. And as a wellness life coach, part of what I'm there to do for you is that I, guide people through some of the research that's out there and some of the clinical studies and give them information so that they can make a knowledgeable choice. I'm not saying that you shouldn't take medication, because medication can be a very important part of that puzzle, but the natural part of it is not being addressed, and that's the bigger part of healing yourself and living a healthier life. It's really interesting that people do not seem to realize that what you eat really is everything about, what is going to come back on you, whether it's today or tomorrow or in a few years. Even over in Europe, they are really talking about how this natural treatment of fibromyalgia really requires this understanding of the leaky gut syndrome and how that is really becoming the norm for so many people. What happens is that there's these larger than what would be best spaces that are present between the cells of the gut wall, and that allows you to get bacteria, fungus, parasites, toxins. You get undigested proteins and fats and waste material through there into the bloodstream. And so substances that are normally not going to be absorbed when you have a healthy digestive tract, they pass through these damaged areas, and that's where the term leaky gut comes from. And so what it is, it's this inflammation of our digestive system, of our gut lining. And so it allows, because of these spaces, absorption of larger protein molecules. And I believe that really is key to why we're seeing more and more allergic reactions, because our immune system starts making all these antibodies against these larger molecules because it sees them as being these invaders. And the antibodies that are being produced against these invaders, that it's oftentimes foods that you have eaten your entire life that suddenly your system just refuses to be able to handle. They can't take it. It starts having this overload, this war, this inflammatory reaction whenever you have that food. And this happens because, well, number one, that's how your body is meant to respond to a foreign invader. But it's also occurring because our body tissues have these sites that are very similar to foods and fungi and bacteria. And so because of that and because of the way we respond, we kind of go into this automatic antibody-like production line. We're like this little factory, and it becomes this chronic inflammation. And so that's something that I'm sure you've heard in recent years is chronic inflammation. That's the big key term. But they're not telling you why you're getting chronic inflammation. And so this becomes joint problems and autoimmune and arthritis and vascular issues. And so the result can be what they believe, to be chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, a lot of these different issues that are not being addressed. So you have all this inflammation and you have this leaky gut syndrome, and your gut is not healthy. And so then you become less resistant to viruses, so you get sick more often, to bacteria and parasites. So you're going to perhaps food that wasn't quite as clean, you're going to deal with differently than you would have in the past. And we know that we eat a lot of dirt and we eat a lot of bacteria, and our bodies can handle that when they're healthy. When our digestive tract isn't healthy, we can't handle that. And then we also start getting this over-colonization of candida. And that candida then can get into your bloodstream, and it can colonize almost anywhere in your body. And you become very toxic, and your body is very overwhelmed. And so it's difficult for you to detoxify, because then your liver is like an overflowing ER, where it just can't keep up with all the sickness and disease and, all the issues that it's dealing with. And so you might start having some of that, more joint pain and more of what we call the mommy brain or the brain fog. A lot of times, guys will say, oh, I'm having a brain fart. Moms say it's because we're moms. Dads say it's because they're overworked. You start having the reactions to chemicals around you more often. If somebody, wants you to walk into Bath and Body Works, it can be too overwhelming for you. You're going to have this bad reaction to it. And this all stems from this leaky gut. Now, with this leaky gut, then you start getting less absorption of the nutrients you need. So then you start having these vitamin and mineral deficiencies. And that starts affecting other symptoms. And so, you think about oftentimes, people that have these kind of issues, they have the edema, the swelling. They have maybe these more hair loss, and they have issues that are affecting their hormones, and they said that they have irritable bowel syndrome and just fatigue and headaches, and they are just not getting the amino acids that they need. They're not getting the fat absorption that they need. They're not getting the vitamins like the vitamin D or the iron that they need, because their GI tract cannot transport the minerals from the intestine to the blood because there's so much inflammation and there's this damage to the carrier proteins because of it. So what can you do? You know, the biggest thing you can do is that you can start thinking about your medical health as your gut health. And so start treating your body as, you know, the gut is king, because the gut is king. And that means that you may need to have for a while, you may need some digestive enzymes before every meal, because the digestive enzymes are going to be something that helps break down that food because you have this inability to do that. That oftentimes will get rid of some of the pain that is associated with eating these foods. You also can do an elimination diet and get rid of some of those foods that your body is reacting badly to while you're healing yourself up. There are supplements that you can take besides digestive enzymes to help out your body. There is DGL, which is a licorice root, which I've talked a lot about. I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast yet or not, but it helps with the inflammation in the gut. You can get some great ones out there. I have a chewable form that is a German chocolate chewable form that is great. I take one before each meal. Recommended is one in between breakfast and lunch, one in between lunch and dinner, and so my daughter takes a half in between breakfast and lunch and a half in between lunch and dinner. You also want to start replacing some of that good bacteria that you don't have, and so that's going to be using probiotics. And the probiotics you use really does matter as much as the vitamins that you should be taking because you're not getting enough out of your food. You don't want something with a lot of fillers. You don't want something that is going to add to the chemical war in your body. And so how do you do that? You look for natural, you look for organic, you look for one that says there's no pesticides, there's no fillers, there's no chemicals, all of these things, because it's going to cause you more inflammation and it's going to feed the problem rather than fix the problem. You think about it as you're in a trauma setting in the ER, and they're going to stop the bleeding first and then really focus in on the problem. The way to stop that leaky gut first, number one, is to clean out with the probiotics and maybe some cleansing and, you know, healing that leaky gut with the DGL. And then you are going to, outside of this trauma, you're going to give more nutrients and you're going to return a little bit more to nature and make sure that you are metabolically healthy. You also might want to do extra amino acids. There is a great amino acid drink that you just drink with water that I'll be posting about, and that's important. You're not breaking down the proteins. You're not getting the amino acids. You need, these are essential. That's why they call them essential amino acids. They are essential to, they're the building blocks of your body. So you really want to make sure that you are taking care of all of this together to take care of the other issues, which might be the fibromyalgia. You know, antibiotics are in so many things. They're in our milk, they're in our meats. We get written prescriptions for antibiotics all the time, and they create so much damage. one of the ways they do is they destroy the beneficial bacteria. Again, probiotic. I love the PB Assist from Life Essentially because it is manufactured to feed the stomach and to get that beneficial bacteria into the intestinal tract. It's not destroyed en route. You know, it's not detoured. It gets to where it needs to be. Our small intestine and our large intestine host over 500 different kinds of beneficial bacteria. I mean, think about that. How huge is that? And this bacteria, they're responsible for hundreds of functions in our body that's required to have a good immune response and to have a healthy metabolism. But we are destroying it. So when you destroy the bacteria, then the bile salts can freely enter and damage your intestines. And so we're seeing this higher incidence of colon cancer. We're seeing more hormonal issues because the bacteria that's beneficial breaks down the hormone secretions that are discharged from the liver to the small intestine. And so if you don't have that bacteria to break down the estrogen, then now you're reabsorbing estrogens in their original state. And these deposits end up in breast, uterus, ovaries. They cause tumors and fibroids and a lot of these premenstrual issues, and is a huge problem for anyone suffering with some sort of hormone imbalance or PCOS. So you want to make sure that you have that beneficial bacteria and that you are taking care of that whole area so that you don't have these kind of problems, so that you don't have this fungus growth, which is another big problem. You find someone with any of these sort of hormone issues and digestive issues and joint issues, and they always complain that they have, I just have this candida issue. That's what they think oftentimes. I just got a candida overgrowth. Well, you do. But you do because the way that your body is reacting to everything you're putting into it and everything you've done to it in this leaky gut, it's fostering this growth of candida. That's the biggest problem that we see with people with leaky gut, is that it just feeds this fungus. And so then you have so many foreign irritants because of all of this going on that you start seeing this skyrocket of food allergies. And so think about these most common allergies in food. There's dairy, eggs, gluten, grains, there's corn, there's beans, which is especially the soybean, there's nuts. And how many people do you know that have one or more of the above? Then we have people that complain about having fruit allergies, rice issues, and millet and other grains. You hear about people, I had a gal in my cosmetology schooling that was allergic to garlic and onions. And so you start to see all of these things. And so it may not be what we technically would call a real allergy, but it's still causing a histamine inflammatory reaction in the small intestine. And that comes back to this leaky gut, this poor digestion, and these sensitivities can be very serious, just as serious as a true food allergy, and they can react exactly the same way. So you have this problem, and you are having these chemical problems, and then your liver gets overstimulated, and then your lymphatic system gets all out of whack. And so as your whole system is falling apart, then you're almost in this chronic state of infection. And I know that so many people have gone through this. And so you have to, start some sort of detoxification, support your liver, and start the steps like I've talked about to get through this. Now, I hear people all the time saying, well, I get enough probiotic from, my yogurt. Or I'm just taking this simple one that I bought. It's really cheap. Well, you get what you get. And if it doesn't make its way into your intestines, then you're not going to heal. And your problems aren't going to go away. Now, I know that they did a study just a few years ago where they were saying that babies born to mothers with untreated gestational diabetes have nearly double the normal risk of becoming obese during childhood. So these children have to receive treatment for the same way because they're at risk. And it's because of this high blood sugar during pregnancy results in the babies being overfed in the womb. And then these children become metabolically imprinted or programmed to become obese. This is huge. If you don't think this is huge, look around at our overweight nation and think about the fact that I know more people today that have had 9, 10, 11-pound children than we've ever seen before. I mean, babies are being born looking like 3-month-old children. And what are all of those children going to be like when they are 12, 13, 14, 15, 25, 35? Are they going to live to be 45? What is going to happen? And so the British Journal of Nutrition did a study that found that probiotic supplemented dietary counseling with women who are pregnant could not only reduce the risk of diabetes during pregnancy, it improved the blood glucose control, and it improved the child's health. So they did this study during the first trimester of pregnancy, and these were women who didn't have any chronic disease. Well, how many people do you know that don't have chronic disease these days? How much more important is it for them to be taking this, probiotic? And so the capsules were taken once a day, and I recommend that you take your probiotic at night so that it doesn't have to deal with any other digestive issues from whatever you're eating. So you take it before bed, brush your teeth, take your probiotic. And these groups, they ended up having the intervention period extended from the first trimester of pregnancy to the end of exclusive breastfeeding. And then they did follow-up infant growth over 24 months. And what they found was that the probiotic intervention reduced the risks of this gestational diabetes and diminished the risk of larger birth size, and that it was safe, and it was cost-effective, and it was a great tool to address the metabolic epidemic. So why aren't we going into our OBGYNs and having them say, oh, you're thinking about getting pregnant. Hey, you should start taking a probiotic. Seriously, I mean, it just infuriates me that we're not discussing this. And it's infuriating that we're not doing something to improve the lives of our children, of our future. How many people are pre-diabetic? How many people have type 2 diabetes? How many children are struggling with their weight? Children that, compare with children born to mothers with normal blood sugar during pregnancy, children that are born to mothers with poorly controlled high blood sugar were 89% more likely to be overweight and 82% more likely to be obese between the ages of 5 and 7. How does that impact your child's future? I'm telling you, people, lifestyle changes, natural decisions, and looking beyond the screen of what you think health is supposed to be is really what we really need to do, because it's changing who we are as people. It is changing all of our regulatory functions in our body. It's changing our children. I'm not going to get into this today, but I believe that this moves into the epigenetics and the reason why we're seeing more children born on the spectrum. And like I've talked about today, more food allergies, less detoxification, more toxic burden, and the only people that can change it is us. The only people that can change the fact that we are more resistant to these antibiotics when we get these super bugs, the only person that can change the fact that we have an overgrowth of resistant candida and that it allows so many incurable diseases, the only people that can change that is us. So think about your gut. Your gut is your hut. It's like your home. It's like the place that matters the most. It's more important, I think, than any other health issue ever in your lifetime. The biggest thing you have to consider is your gut. So I'm going to let it go at that today, and you can find me at lovebarbaraChristensen.com. I am on Facebook at facebook.com/lovebarbaraChristensen. I also have the www.paleoveggio.com blog, and I'm on Facebook with that. And I would love to talk to you about any of these things to help you start changing your thought process and start planning your future. So this has been On Tuesday We Talk, and this is your life coach and certified personal trainer, Barbara Christensen, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.